Tonight, the country could be heading to the polls sooner rather than later, as the Prime Minister is expected to call an election by the end of this week.
The whole province benefits when there's more NDP voices in Ottawa.
I have no regrets in what I've done. I've enjoyed my time as MP.
I think Pierre is the tough guy that we need to take a lot of these guys on.
With 5 incumbent MPs not seeking re-election, this province's political landscape is in for a major overhaul.
An independent investigator has found that Ron Ellsworth is in conflict over a land sale. In a mixed reaction, City Council accepts some of the findings of that report and rejects others.
Declared his conflict of interest when this was discussed. He never attended any meetings, never had any discussions.
I'll have more coming up on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Voters across the country, including in this province, will soon head to the polls. Radio Canada has learned that Prime Minister Mark Carney will ask the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament and call a federal election this Sunday. And that means the election campaign would kick off barely 1 week after Carney was sworn in and appointed his cabinet. Carney's trip to Rideau Hall to speak to Governor-General Mary Simon is expected to come just 1 day before MPs are scheduled to return to Parliament after it was prorogued on January 6th. An election campaign can last between 37 and 51 days. Election Day is yet to be confirmed, but voters are expected to cast their ballots on either April 28th or May 5th, according to sources that spoke with Radio Canada.
Because of all the chaos that's been created by the American president, voters are already paying attention to what's happening. And so parties can now hit the ground running while voters are paying attention to really sort of say, okay, well, here's how we're going to deal with problem X, problem Y, problem Z. And there's a full alphabet of problems at the moment. And so my hope for the next 4 weeks is that we hear from parties and candidates with clear policy ideas, that they're not just spouting gimmicky phrases, catchphrases. We actually have big problems that require real solutions. And so my hope is that we're going to hear from politicians who want to be elected on a platform with real content, with a real plan.
With polls suggesting a tightening race between the Liberals and Conservatives, political hopefuls in this province's 7 federal ridings are on the move. Here now, Terry Roberts has more.
5 Liberal incumbents are heading for the exit. Potential successors are mobilizing. With an election looming, the federal political scene in this province is heating up. And nowhere is this more evident than in the riding of Cape Spear, formerly known as St. John's South, Mount Pearl. This Conservative candidate was not available for an interview, but he's hoping to wrestle the riding away from the Liberals. But this is what he's up against. 3 people are contesting the Liberal nomination.
You've said it first, we're among friends.
A business and community leader, Mount Pearl's deputy mayor, a popular MHA who retired last summer after nearly 3 decades in provincial politics. Hundreds of Liberals will assemble at a St. John's hotel Friday night for a nomination vote. But this is a friendly competition.
Whoever at the end of this day on Friday, I'm excited for what's to come.
With big threats to Canada's sovereignty and economic security from U.S. President Donald Trump, however, no one at this table is downplaying the seriousness of the current crisis.
We cannot swing to the right as the United States did.
These 3 are energized by the emergence of Mark Carney as Canada's new Prime Minister.
I truly have a lot of faith in an individual who has good, strong monetary policy background.
And what's been a stunning reversal for the Liberals in public opinion polls.
Mark Carney is, no question, the reason many Canadians are looking at the Liberal Party.
An engineer from Clarenville, an airline executive from Labrador, a West Coast real estate agent who's back for another shot at long-range mountains, an incumbent Conservative in central Newfoundland who so far does not have an opponent.
I'm going to put my money where my mouth is.
A ship's captain from the Ghouls. These are some of the people hoping to earn a seat in the House of Commons.
I believe that both the Conservatives and the Liberals have an agenda that doesn't always put working people first.
I think the big thing for me is honestly affordability and the complaints of the people around me on how unaffordable things have become.
I don't like being away from home so much.
Whatever happens in the next election, the political landscape in Newfoundland and Labrador is in for a big shakeup, maybe unprecedented. St. John's East MP and Cabinet Minister Joanne Thompson is the only Liberal seeking re-election. Yvonne Jones, Goody Hutchings, Churence Rogers, Ken MacDonald, Seamus O'Regan. All 5 Liberals are leaving politics on their own terms.
I think you're going to find there's going to be good candidates step up to run for the Liberal Party, especially now with the polls the way they are.
But the door is now open for new political faces like this 30-year-old. He's battling this Carbonear lawyer for the Conservative nod in Avalon. Bab was not available for an interview, but like O'Brien, she's laser-focused on issues like affordability, the economy, and public spending. O'Brien is a believer in the Conservative message and the party's leader.
He's the right man for the job to take on the current world setting. It's a very scary place right now.
Whatever your political stripe, it's a good time to mix coffee and politics and to present a united front in the face of turbulent times. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Well, still with elections, nearly 4 years after the 2021 provincial election, a challenge against it is still in Supreme Court. Weimar Whitby, who lives in the St. John's East Kitty-Vitty riding, alleged his right to vote was denied. Whitby has a lawsuit filed against Elections NL and former Chief Electoral Officer Bruce Chalk. He's joined by former NDP leader Alison Coffin, who lost her seat in the St. John's East Kitty-Vitty riding to John Abbott. Well, today, lawyers for Abbott and Elections NL argued that it's too late to take a disputed election application to trial. But lawyer Will Hiscock says the plaintiffs are ready with evidence. There's still no decision on whether a trial will be held. And China's 25% tariff on Canadian seafood is in effect as of today. The Asian country is Canada's second biggest export market. Here now's Heather Gillis takes a look at what tariffs mean for this province's fisheries.
These tariffs from China now mean that Canada and Newfoundland and Labrador could be squeezed by 2 of its major export markets. The U.S. is number 1, China is number 2. Of course, the Chinese tariffs in effect today. Tariffs from the U.S. could come on April 2nd. Now, this is all throwing a lot of uncertainty into the mix for the fishing industry in this province, and it's happening at the same time that crab harvesters and processors are trying to set prices for this year's catch. How much per pound will crab fishermen get for their catch? Now, most of Newfoundland and Labrador's snow crab goes south to the U.S., so the Chinese tariff isn't going to greatly impact the industry, but other seafood products could be affected, like halibut, shrimp, and sea cucumber, for example. Here's processor Paul Grant. He says there's going to be pain for everyone in the industry.
It's very difficult to get people to come to grips with the reality. We can't simply pass this on to the customer. It's just not going to happen. And you know, the Japanese economy is weak. The yen is weak. So, you know, we're in a very difficult situation.
Meanwhile, the FFAW Fisheries Union President Dwan Street is fresh home from the Boston Seafood Show. She also says that these tariffs create a lot of uncertainty in the industry.
Cucumber, sea cucumber, that's our big market. So, you know, we do have some time there. There were some discussions in Boston about what it's going to do to the lobster industry. Spoke to some of our counterparts in the Maritimes, and, you know, that's weighing on them pretty heavily. But at the end of the day, you know, we're hopeful that the federal government can help negotiate with the Chinese, and those tariffs will hopefully go away. Our sea cucumber fishery doesn't start until May. And again, you know, you're looking at hypotheticals, because by the time our fishery starts, it might just all be off the table. So,
according to Stats Canada, this country exported over $1 billion worth of seafood to China last year, and that represents about 20% of Canada's seafood exports. So there's a big chunk of the industry at stake. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the owner of the Stephenville Airport is facing even more financial trouble. Carl Diamond, the Ottawa entrepreneur who bought the airport in 2023, owes an investor about $2 million. Here Now's Troy Turner reports.
Matthew Popple, the lottery winner who helped fund the purchase of the Stephenville Airport, has won a default court judgment of nearly $2 million against Carl Diamond. The decision was filed at Supreme Court in St. John's last September. CBC discovered it in a search of court judgments.
Popple is the Saskatchewan man who loaned Diamond $1.1 million a few months before the airport deal closed. The cash was secured by the airport property. Now, combining interest and other fees, that amount has nearly doubled. In July 2024, Diamond told CBC he was struggling with financing.
We thought it would be significantly easier. We haven't wavered from the plan, though. Like that's the thing. Is like we will be building drones at the airport. We will be having 1,000 jobs because we want to have a world-class airport for all these world-class projects that are coming in.
However, court documents show a strained financial relationship between Popple and Diamond just months after Diamond bought the airport in August of 2023. Later that year, Popple wrote to Diamond and his company demanding repayment. But according to the statement of claim, that didn't happen. Popple sued last April and won a default judgment in September when Diamond didn't file a statement of defense. Interest during that time was more than $1,800 a day. Between that lawsuit being filed and the judgment, Diamond told CBC that UK investors would help fix the airport's financial woes.
We said our struggles with the financing was a problem, but now that that's resolved.
That financing never materialized, and Popple now wants the judgment in this province recognized by courts in Ontario, where Diamond lives, so it can be enforced there. Meanwhile, Diamond is due back in St. John's Court in May in relation to a $2.5 million lawsuit against his company that runs the airport in relation to unpaid bills for runway lighting. Messages to Diamond have not been returned. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Still with news from the courts, the trial for Tony Humby, a man accused of dozens of sexual offenses, is facing further delays. The trial for the 64-year-old was supposed to start more than 2 weeks ago and then was rescheduled for Tuesday, then again for yesterday. And today the delay continued with no firm timeline on when it will end. The CBC's Ryan Cook reports.
Crown witnesses waited outside the courtroom again this morning, ready to give testimony if called upon. But Tony Humby's trial didn't proceed, and we still don't know when it will. Judge Ralph Pritchard ruled this morning that a pair of last-minute applications by the defense should be heard, meaning they'll be in court next week to sort that out. Beyond that, it's still not clear when the trial can proceed. Defense lawyer Mark Grushy believes he still hasn't been given all the relevant documents for the case, and that came after the Crown accidentally turned over something Grushy wasn't supposed to see, something he believes could lead to exculpatory evidence. Prosecutor Deidre Badcock strongly opposed, saying there was nothing new in the information Grushy was given, and that his applications would only affect the case by dragging it out. Tony Humby was first arrested in April 2023 and was slated to stand trial last summer, but that was postponed when he switched lawyers. He's pleaded not guilty to 72 charges, the majority related to the alleged sexual abuse of vulnerable teens. His trial is scheduled to run the rest of this month, as well as 1 week in April and 3 weeks in May. Judge Pritchard wants these new applications to be heard, but he wants it done quickly. All witnesses and relevant documents have to be ready to go for a hearing on Tuesday. That will happen in camera, meaning no media allowed, and this may take the rest of the month to deal with, if not longer. The Crown had previously warned that these delays could derail the entire trial. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, today was the first day of spring. We saw some double-digit temperatures for some areas, particularly the west coast. Corner Brook and Stephenville both topping out at 11 degrees today. We did see some sunshine as well this afternoon. Still see some of that snow, though. Long-range mountains, parts of the south coast, still seeing that snow as on the ground anyway. And as we head through the next couple of days, we are going to continue to see some rain and mild temperatures. However, a wintry mix on tap for Labrador. I'll get into all the details when I come back a little later.
Look at that one over there.
Is this good?
Yeah, a little bit more. That felt good.
Therapeutic almost. There's a wrestling ring down there. What's that about?
I'm not This is wild.
Well, an independent investigation has found that one St. John's councillor has breached the city's code of conduct. That's after a controversial city land purchase last year. Mark Quinn reports.
The report, I think, is great. I think it's great for us to be looking internally at what we're doing.
St. John City Councillor Ron Ellsworth is council's lead for finance, and he's also a real estate agent. When the city bought land at 72 Goldstone Street to improve road safety in the area, Ellsworth was the realtor for the property and received a commission.
Look, it appears that there's a blatant conflict of interest here.
Last year, the city launched an external investigation, and now that investigation has found that Ellsworth did breach the council's code of conduct by speaking and voting on the 2024 city budget in December of 2023. a budget that included money used for the Goldstone Street purchase. Ellsworth doesn't accept the report's finding on that.
I don't agree with that. I have to assume what future decisions would be of council.
Mayor Danny Breen says this is independent investigator Donna Ballard's most important finding, the conclusion that Ellsworth didn't try to influence councillors to vote for the land sale.
Overall, the investigation found no evidence of any attempt to influence the decision-making process or the vote regarding the purchase of the property. The report did identify some inadvertent breaches of the Councillor Code of Conduct, which we can now learn from and address as we move forward.
Breen said the city does accept that Ellsworth didn't follow every detail of the Code of Conduct.
While Councillor Ellsworth removed himself from discussion, there were incidences where he did not expressly say the reason.
However, Breen confirmed he is defending Ellsworth's handling of this matter.
I'm defending Councillor Ellsworth to the point that Councillor Ellsworth declared his conflict of interest when this was discussed. He never attended any meetings, never had any discussions, and as the investigation showed, that he never attempted to influence any councillors.
Although council accepts that Ron Ellsworth did breach the Code of Conduct, it says the breaches were minor in nature and there will not be consequences for the councillor. It says there will be further education for all of the council about the Code of Conduct. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a provincial breakfast program recently got a big corporate boost, and today Kids Eat Smart showed how donations are used at a school in Labrador. The CBC's Reagan Burden stopped by.
Well, today we have PAL Airlines and Air Borealis have partnered with Kids Eat Smart Foundation, and they're very good working as a team, supporting our school, making sure that we have healthy breakfast items for our students. Well, a lot of our students avail of our breakfast program. Some of our students are up really early in the morning, 6 a.m. They're getting on the bus stop between 7:30. So they're quite hungry if we had to wait till recess. Even if they do have breakfast at home first, it's often very early. So they like to come, get energized, and have some healthy food before they start their learning for the day.
A couple of weeks ago, we launched our Kids Eat Smart campaign called Feed the Kids 2025. And the partnership with PAL Airlines and Air Borealis kicked off that campaign with our first very impactful gift of $100,000. So we are here in Labrador to celebrate the children and celebrate that every child can come to school and have access to food at no cost to the child or their family because of that gift.
I like the bananas and fruits and all that stuff, and like the Cheerios for breakfast. Sometimes I like juicy apples.
And do you get those a lot through the breakfast program?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you,
Well, artificial intelligence is powering medical breakthroughs. This artificial hand being developed at MUN is a game changer. We'll show you how it works coming up. Ashley, happy first day of spring. It was beautiful out there today.
It was beautiful out there today. You're really starting to feel the warmth of that sunshine. The flowers are starting to pop out, which is exciting. I had to share this photo with you. I know I had one last night as our weather photo, but I love this. I love that the ground is coming to life. So Millie shared this shot of her yard in Gould. So thank you so much for that. It does not look like spring. Well, actually, it does look like spring, the other side of spring in St. John's. That fog has moved in now down to about 2 degrees right now. Feels more like, well, the wind chill is at 2, and those winds now are out of the south around 22 kilometers per hour. We are going to continue to see this southerly flow as we head through the next couple of days. That visibility down to about 1.6 kilometers. So those of you that are on the south coast, unfortunately, it is going to be a whole lot of RDF as we continue to see this southerly flow. But still quite mild in Corner Brook at 11 degrees right now. Same thing, or Stephenville down to 10. And then we do have temperatures above 0 in most of Labrador as well, with the exception of Nain. You're sitting at about -5 at the moment. So we still have a ridge of high pressure that's offshore now, but we're still under the influence. And then we've got our next area of low pressure moving in. This will bring a front with it. In behind that, some much colder air. But first, you're going to continue to see this mild air through the night tonight in Lab City. Eventually, you'll see that change over as we change over to snow as we head through tomorrow. But other than that, there's lots of clear sky. Those clouds will be on the increase, though, as we head through the overnight, as we start to see our next system move in. And that southerly flow, again, going to bring the potential for some fog patches tonight, especially along the south coast, and then the rain will eventually move in as we head into tomorrow morning. Now, as far as temperatures go tonight, most of us should stay above 0 with the exception of the northern peninsula and along the strait. And then Nain, again, you're going to hover around -5. That will be where you sit for most of tonight, with generally light winds, but a little breezy for the west coast and the western portion of Labrador, with southerly winds gusting between 40 to as much as 50 kilometers per hour. Now, as we head through the day tomorrow, we'll see some showers to start the day. We'll see a little bit of a break in the afternoon. This will be the best chance to see any peaks of sun across central areas, potentially even the east and maybe even the west coast. And then we'll see some flurries move in, or rather some showers move in for Labrador. Now for Lab West, you'll see some showers for the first part of your day. Then temperatures will drop quite dramatically into the afternoon, and then that rain will change over to snow. We'll see a similar transition, potentially some freezing rain for the north coast tomorrow afternoon and evening. But again, central areas of Labrador and the upper Lake Melville area towards the coast, you're going to continue to see some showers. Now, as we head into the evening and overnight, then periods of rain will move in. That will be the case for the west coast and eastern Newfoundland as well, and that will continue at least through Saturday morning. Temperatures tomorrow, they're going to be quite nice. We will be hovering in the teens, somewhere between 11 to as much as 14 degrees through the day. The winds will be out of the south, like I said, so temperatures along southern south coast, even the Burin Peninsula, will be a tad on the cooler side. Further inland areas, though, you should reach the double digits. But again, towards the coast, rain, drizzle, and fog, the story for you. 5 to 6 degrees will be your afternoon highs as well. And then for Labrador, most of the day, you'll be sitting in the single digits. That will be the story for the southeast, the upper Lake Melville area, between 5 to as much as 9 degrees through the afternoon, with the potential for some showers. You won't see those showers on the coast, at least until later in the day. And then for Lab West, the first part of your day, you'll actually be sitting around 2 or 3 degrees, and then the temperatures will drop below 0, and that's when you'll see that snow, which will likely accumulate later in the day, and your winds will shift to more northwesterlies, hence those colder temperatures. So you'll be sitting with winds somewhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, and then again later in the day for Nain, with your daytime high only around -3. Now, temperatures are going to continue to stay mild, at least for the first part of the weekend, then things will cool off, but I'll have all those details in the long-range forecast.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Well, researchers are developing a new technology that uses artificial intelligence to power prosthetics for amputees. Shenta Young is an associate professor in computer science at MUN, and he shows us an early stage prototype of an artificial hand that uses AI, how the camera on the hand allows the AI to see the world and decide how the hand should move depending on the situation.
I'm the amputee. I connect the socket to my arm. Then we can just simply go to grab things. The grab it. And if you want to put it back, imagine if you lost hand, you want to use your signal to contract to or make these fingers to move. It looks like really hard. So what we do is that we have this AI model, and the AI model, when the camera sees the environment, and it will configure to the right gestures at right moment, do the right action, and with right forces to grasp things or pick up and place things. Yeah.
So it's intuitive?
Yeah, it's very intuitive. Like you just use your hand in a natural way to do things. Yeah. You grab it.
So it's the camera right here is seeing the object, basically the AI's eye, analyzing the object.
Yeah, exactly.
And figuring out how to pick it up.
Yeah. And also the camera will be almost invisible. Oh. My research is in intelligent interfaces for like this robotics, artificial limbs. Yeah, so this is the project, the prosthesis control. We develop intelligent interface to control this thing.
Can you give me some examples of things the hand can do and pick up, and how that can be integrated to make someone's life better?
Yeah, for example, if we use this hand to grab a coffee mug, yeah, so you can just pick up. When the hand approach the coffee mug, it will close to secure it at the right shape. And if you want to move it and release it, and your intention will be captured and it will automatically release it, we can change this model to do this way.
The AI component, that's what makes this special, is that this artificial intelligence is behind this. So now you're in the process of training the AI to recognize different things and know what to do with them.
Yeah, we teach the model to do things. Usually we call it demonstration training, or learning, or imitation learning. Then after we train this model in different scenarios, and the model recognize and also generalize to more scenarios, more tasks.
Could the hand be trained to, say, be able to open the car door, turn on the car,
exactly,
change the gear, and even use a steering wheel? Could all of those things happen with this hand?
Exactly, as long as you teach the hand. And actually we are going to do this training process in virtual reality. That means you can just generate many of these tasks, all possible tasks, and we make it transfer to real world. So we are going to develop a lot of things to solve this problem.
Do you have any sense of like a timeline when something like this could be launched?
Now I believe I'm really confident that should be solved within a couple of years.
How excited are you about this?
Really surprised that when we release this model in the lab, everybody gets excited. So that means our dream that make this hand to work in real life could possibly be real. Yeah, everybody gets excited. Really, we have the hope that solve this problem, like completely. Yeah.
Completely solve it.
Yeah, that's our hope that we can tackle this difficult problem. It's kind of just for decades. Yeah, and improve the quality life of amputees.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped?
Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Chatham, Innu First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, a few minutes ago, we heard about how artificial intelligence is being developed to power prosthetics. But some say that technology can be used in much more nefarious ways, helping people commit fraud. As the CBC Marketplace team recently found out, artificial intelligence has the potential to make scammers sound more trustworthy, all in an effort to dupe our family and friends. David Common has the story.
Detecting scams is about to get a whole lot harder as scammers embrace artificial intelligence.
Oh, it's a playground.
At the world's largest fraud training and prevention conference, the alarm bells are sounding. Overseas scammers are harvesting our posts and videos from social media to use against our family and friends. Former CIA officer Peter Wormcutt did it in under a minute, using me as an example.
Hi, this is David Common reporting from Las Vegas, Nevada at the 35th Annual ACFE Global Fraud Conference.
That's nuts. I spoke none of those words, but AI can clone my voice precisely from social media. It may have happened to Marilyn Crawford, an early morning phone call from a man identifying himself as the local police. Her son Kevin recounts what the caller said next.
We have your grandson in custody. He has been involved with a car theft, and we need $9,000 to release him.
It's called the grandparent scam.
They said, here, we have Ian here, and he goes, "Hi, Grandma. Police say they need some money to release me, or they're going to keep me in jail."
In that moment, did you believe it was your grandson in trouble?
I did. I really did.
The scammers even sent her a taxi to take her to the bank. But an alert teller there stopped Marilyn from losing any money. Just as scammers use AI for voice cloning,
hello, scammers. I'm your worst nightmare.
A British telecom is using AI to fight back.
I'm an AI created by O2 to waste phone scammers' time.
Daisy is not real, but she convincingly keeps scammers on the line.
Because while they're busy talking to me, they can't be scamming you.
All of it underscoring how much more sophisticated scams and scam busting have now become. David Common, CBC News, Toronto.
Wow. Well, airline Sunwing is facing continued anger after flight cancellations last month. They numbered in the hundreds and left some travelers stranded for days. Sophia Harris reports.
Chrissy Downs had to unpack from the vacation she never had after Sunwing canceled her flight to Cuba last month with no offer of a rebooked flight.
I was just really disappointed. There was nothing, no explanation, no I'm sorry, no we'll try to work something out.
Amid snowstorms and the Delta plane crash in Toronto, Sunwing canceled dozens of flights last month, wreaking havoc on vacation plans. Hans Roach and his wife made it to the Dominican Republic, but Sunwing canceled their flight back home, leaving them stranded for 5 days.
It was a very anxious 5 days. Every day we would pack up all our luggage, get down to the lobby at noon, and hope and pray that we had a flight.
Before finally boarding their return flight on day 6, Sunwing charged Roach and his wife each a $50 flight change fee.
It's an indignity.
In an email, Sunwing apologized to passengers and said those with canceled vacations will get a full refund. The airline said slowdowns at Toronto's Pearson Airport caused by the plane crash, bad weather, crew constraints, and limited hotel capacity hampered operations last month. But this air passenger rights expert says Sunwing still has to follow federal rules, requiring major airlines to rebook passengers as soon as possible after canceling flights, even if that means buying passengers tickets on another airline.
This is what they're required to do under the law. It looks like in this case Sunwing just made up their own rules.
Unhappy customers are now trying to claim compensation from Sunwing. But every time Downs tries to submit a claim, Sunwing says she can't because she canceled her flight.
I hadn't canceled my trip. I'm insulted.
The Canadian Transportation Agency says it's looking into the Sunwing cancellations and that dissatisfied passengers can file a complaint. But they may be in for a long wait. The agency currently has a backlog of more than 85,000 air passenger complaints. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, with an election call likely coming this Sunday, the NDP appears to be in trouble. Its support has plummeted, and it's at risk of losing official party status. David Thurton has a look at the party's predicament.
Jagmeet Singh is a prolific campaigner, but the NDP leader heads into the next election facing this reality.
They kept the Liberal Party in power, and only for that reason I wouldn't vote for them.
It seems like their messaging and their branding really just hasn't been on point.
CBC's poll tracker, which aggregates public opinion polling, suggests a surge for the Liberals. The ruling party is now neck and neck with the Conservatives, but New Democrats are polling at new lows. Support for the NDP now sits at under 12%.
The NDP support has just tanked over the last few weeks, and they are in serious trouble.
Eric Grenier updates the poll tracker.
You probably have to go back to the 1990s to find the NDP polling so poorly and for this close to an election. I think this is what is really key for the New Democrats, is that right now they are in a lot of trouble and they're only a few days out from an election call.
But the NDP says they're not putting too much stock in that polling.
I think it's been a very volatile time. I think for everybody who's watching the polls, we're not in the same place we were a few months ago. And I think we're going to see some more change before the dust settles.
Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
Donald Trump has turned the next election on its head. The ballot box question now: who's the best to take on Trump?
But now with Mark Carney coming in, I'm really giving him a good consideration.
Carney is the one. Like you look at his resume. Poilievre hasn't had a job other than being a politician.
This all leaves Singh in a tough spot, fighting for not only the NDP's survival, but possibly his own political future, according to this former campaign director.
This is going to be, I think, for Mr. Singh, the election of his political career. And if he can meet the moment and rise to the occasion, Canadians will reward him.
Let's get ready.
Lately, Singh has been showing voters another side while comparing himself to the Conservative leader.
Now, Pierre Poilievre, on the other hand, has had this paid for by the public dental and medical coverage, yet he wants to cut it.
The NDP is an underdog in this race. As far as the party is concerned, there's still time to turn things around before voters make up their minds. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, amid the tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump, many Canadians are wanting to support local businesses and brands. And while Tim Hortons once earned its place as a Canadian icon, many people still wonder if it's technically Canadian. The CBC's Francis Willick tried to find out.
Tim Hortons. It's as Canadian as ice hockey, the Maple Leaf, and Canada Geese. Or is it? After the company was bought by U.S. burger chain Wendy's, then became part of Brazilian-backed Restaurant Brands International, did it forfeit its claim to Canadian identity? The topic has been hotly debated online and likely in coffee shops across the nation, especially in the wake of the patriotic fervor whipped up by tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. So, what exactly makes a company Canadian? Tim Hortons was started by Toronto Maple Leafs hockey player Tim Horton in 1964 with one store and eventually expanded across the country. It was sold to Wendy's in 1995, but then those two companies went their separate ways. In 2014, it became part of Restaurant Brands International, which today also includes Burger King, Popeyes, and Firehouse Subs. At that time, a Brazilian investment firm had 47% of the voting power, but over time, that's fallen. The Brazilian company holds just 26% now. Canadian banks and institutions hold about the same, and the remainder is other corporate or individual shareholders. But is ownership even the be-all and end-all of corporate identity?
If I think about the automotive industry, it's a good example. If I tell you Chrysler, Jeep, Fiat, Maserati, and Peugeot, you will probably think about a country for each one of those. But all of these companies are part of a big multinational company, which headquarters is in the Netherlands.
If it's not ownership, is it where the materials come from or where the stores are located? Obviously, Canada doesn't grow coffee beans, but Tim Hortons roasts the majority of its beans at 2 roasteries, one of which is in Canada. It has distribution centres across the country and an icing and fills factory in Ontario. Of the 6,000 restaurants around the world, 64% are in Canada, and more than 100,000 people work in those Canadian stores. Tanya Doucette is one of 1,500 Tim Hortons franchisees. She says the role Tim Hortons plays in communities is key to its identity.
I think back to the pandemic when guests, when we couldn't be together inside the restaurants, when we couldn't have that community gathering, our guests would bring lawn chairs and they would sit, even though it was winter. You know, we remember the shutdown happened in March, and even though Alberta can remain quite cold until, well into May, our guests were gathering outside. They were keeping the spacing that was required, but they gathered outside because they needed that place to come together. And this is a place of community for them.
So then, is it Canadian? Maybe that's up to Canadians to decide. Frances Willick, CBC News, Halifax.
The miners are family, and they have to take care of each other. It's truly an honor as a Newfoundlander to be able to go out there and bring back a representation of all of the Newfoundlanders that weren't able to come back.
Love the world around you because it does shimmer with the impossible sometimes made possible.
Time for a look at the long-range forecast, and spring has sprung officially.
It has.
How's the rest of the week looking?
Well, warm for a couple days, and then things are going to cool down back down well below where we should be sitting this time of year, unfortunately. Okay. We're well above where we should be sitting this time of year, that's for sure. Let's take a look at what's going on. So we typically sit around 3 degrees this time of year, and tomorrow's temperatures are going to be 10 degrees warmer than that in some cases. And we're going to continue to see that southerly flow as we head through the overnight and into Saturday morning for the island. Now we're looking at the risk of some freezing rain in the pink there. That'll be the case towards the coast of Labrador, and then eventually as we head into the afternoon on Saturday, that will head towards the Strait and then the northern peninsula as well. So don't be surprised if we see some freezing rain warnings in place for that time frame. Again, temperatures should stay quite mild Saturday afternoon. We may even see, again, a few peaks of sun in the mix there as things dry out a little bit, but definitely returning to more colder air up across Labrador, -4 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Lab City will hover around -1. Now you should see some sunshine through the day, but temperatures will remain somewhere between 10 to 14 degrees from the west coast through to the Avalon. Again, southern areas of the island will see temperatures a little cooler, between 5 and 7 degrees, and then hovering around the 0 degree mark, hence that potential for some freezing rain for the northern peninsula and along the Strait. As we head into Sunday, things should clear out into the afternoon. It looks like a pretty lovely day, though. Temperatures will be cooling down, back down to the single digits. Coastal areas of Labrador looking at the potential for some significant snow, so keep that in mind. But we will see some showers return as we head into the evening hours on Sunday, pretty much island-wide. Temperatures, again, back down on a little bit of the cool side, but still above where we should be sitting, anywhere from 4 to about 9 degrees, 3 to 9 degrees. And temperatures across Labrador back down to the minus teens for Lab City. You'll sit around -14, otherwise between 0 and about -6 for the rest of the Big Land. Monday will be chilly. We'll hover around the 0 degree mark in St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. We're looking at the potential for some showers or flurries. And then Tuesday, we'll see that temperature bump back up mid-single digits with the chance of some showers. For for central and western Newfoundland, you're going to see that drop as well. Only about 1 degree in central, though, western Newfoundland below 0, and some flurries. And then for the rest of the Big Land, we're looking at our temperatures dropping back down below 0, and they're going to stay there for a little while. We'll flirt with the 0 degree mark, though, as we get towards midweek. Our weather photo of the day, another one in St. John's, but this is a really lovely photo of from Cape Spear looking towards the Narrows there.
Wow, no snow.
No snow, not at all. Lisa shared this photo with us, and if you have any, you can send them to nowphotos@cbc.ca.
Might be a little bit of snow there in the distance. I can't quite tell, but still, it looks great. Great photo. Love to see it.
Blue skies are always welcome.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sending us that photo, and thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.